Yo, it's your boy Turnip coming at you with my Friday the 13th Jason Vorhees overview. I go over all the Jasons in the game, I rank them, I give you tips and tricks on how to use them, and give you overall my opinion on what their worth is and how good they are in the game. These are all based on my experience. I've played over 170 hours of the game, and I'm pretty close to level 90. So watch the vid, and down below if you have any comments, anything you think that I missed or maybe wasn't entirely accurate, feel free, let me know. And yeah, just give me your feedback. I'm definitely not the best at the game, but I have a lot of fun, so it was a lot of fun making this video. If you like it, give it a thumb up, but if you hated it, feel free, thumb it down. The first thing you want to do when you spawn in as Jason is immediately grab the knives, and as you're grabbing the knives, you want to check your map for the objective spawns. Because part 2 Jason starts with extra traps, I always set one right at the door of my shack before I leave. I usually don't place a trap here, but because he has a lot extra, I think it's worth it. Now I like to immediately morph to the power box closest to the phone. I want to take out the power fast to try and prevent the counselors from dialing or calling Tommy Jarvis. The Jarvis house always has a red and white radio antenna outside, so if you can kill the power nearby, you can stop them from calling Tommy. And if you know for sure that this is the box that powers the radio, I like to place an extra trap in front of the box, so I know if anybody tries to fix it. If a counselor dies, they have potential to come back to life as Tommy, and Tommy is the most powerful character in the game in terms of stat-wise, and he can actually kill Jason if he gets a female counselor to help him get the sweater at Jason's hut. Immediately after that, as every Jason you play, you always want to trap the phone box, with some exception. Next order of business is to trap the cars. The yellow car can hold 2 counselors, and the blue car can hold 4. Our first trap goes in front of the engine to stop the battery. So if a counselor tries to repair it, they will be trapped and then you will be alerted. And the second will go on the passenger side gas tank. Right behind the tire is where you want to place your second trap. Once we've laid the groundwork, we are now free to start pursuing counselors. If you ever hear this sound on your killing spree, you know one of your traps is sprung. This is what a trap looks like that has not yet been sprung and is still waiting. This is what a trap looks like that a counselor has stepped on or has used a pocket knife to disarm sneakily. If they do use a pocket knife, be aware that you won't actually hear the trapping sound. This is a way counselors will try to fix objectives sneakily by using pocket knives. Jason's a mama's boy, so above all else, we want to protect mommy's head as much as we can. So if you ever hear some dude bash on a giant Asian gong in the middle of the forest, you immediately want to teleport back to your shack, because that means someone is inside trying to hurt mommy. So this ain't good. You see these 2 goons here, one of them's Tommy Jarvis and the other is a female counselor wearing mommy's sweater, so they are trying to kill me. The first step these bimbos have to do is get my mask off, and then the sweater girl can activate the sweater and pretend like she's my mommy, and then Tommy Jarvis can be a big meanie and smash me in the face with an axe or a machete. Axe and machete are the only 2 weapons that Tommy can use to kill Jason. So you immediately want to hone in on the sweater girl and try to kill her as soon as possible. Okay, so now let's talk about the best way to kill the counselors. It's not as easy as it sounds. There are a lot of things counselors can do to evade you, like jumping through windows, stunning you, and throwing things out like firecrackers. So you're going to have to get a little crafty if you're going to try to catch some of these counselors, especially the counselors that have a higher sprint and more speed. They can be a pain in the ass. In my opinion, probably the most valuable thing you can learn in the beginning is the shift grab. And what that is, you'll see here, is when a counselor gets in front of you, you shift in front of them where you think they're going to be, and then you grab that space to get the kill. This may take some time to master. It's all about the timing. You want to grab in front of them and predict where they're going to be running to get the grab. If you become overwhelmed by a few counselors all ganging up on you and hitting you, it's important to not feel overwhelmed. Although they all may be attacking you, they are wasting a lot of resources and also building up your rage meter in the upper left-hand corner. Rage is when Jason becomes unstunnable and he can pretty much attack the counselors with ease. This normally happens near the mid-game, but if they gang up on you, this bar fills up faster. So it's important to just stop the counselors from filling up the objectives or fixing the phone box. Focus on the one that's fixing the thing and try to slash the other counselors at the same time. And when I say slash, I mean hit them with your weapon a few times to basically get their health down so they are no longer capable of running away. You'll notice that once you slash them down, they start to slow down significantly and they can't fight back as well. If a counselor is ever trying to barricade a door in your face, what you can do is enter combat stance by tapping right thumbstick, and you can actually hit them through the door if they're trying to barricade it. Another good tip, if a counselor is evading you constantly through windows by climbing in and out of them, you can get a quick knife off on them like this, and it'll stop them from going through it, and then you can grab them. Alright, part 2, Jason. His strengths are that he can run, he has more traps, and his morph regenerates faster, his shift regenerates slower, he has a low defense and a slow water speed. He's great for beginning players. In my opinion, he is, if not, he's one of the best Jasons in the game due to his traps, as well as being able to run. Very good, just overall, because they can keep up with counselors. How you want to play is this Jason, you want to play very defensively. You want to get all of your traps placed as soon as you can, using that fast morph to your advantage. You want to watch out for the boat. If you have a boat that spawns, you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it. I wouldn't really waste traps there, but just keep a close eye on the boat because of the slower water speed. It's very hard to catch that boat if it goes away. Same for the cars. If they manage to get the cars fixed, it's not very good. You're not going to be able to catch it. Let's just put it like that. Due to his slow shift speed. In general, overall, any Jason you're playing, prevention is the best method of defense, because if they can get into the car, it's a lot harder to catch them, obviously. Part 2 especially, it's very, very difficult to do that. You also want to be aware that part 2 is probably the easiest to stun with a weapon. So a lot of people try to kill part 2 using Tommy Jarvis and Sweater Girl. So that's why at the beginning of the game I like to place a trap down on my shack, just in case somebody tries to sneak in. But overall, really, really strong due to his traps, and I play him most of the time. Part 3. Strengths: can run, has a higher weapon damage, and it's harder to break out of his grip. Weaknesses: he's stunned for longer times, it's harder to detect counselors with the sense, and his stalk takes longer to regenerate. So part 3 Jason is really good. He has a good amount of traps, good amount of knives, he can run, he's pretty agile, and he overall does not have really any weaknesses. And why I say that, so he has stun resistance and also sense as a weakness starting out. With the rage buff that came out last year, that basically means nothing for him. Once you enter rage mode, you get increased sense, and you're not even able to be stunned unless they can take the mask off. So it's really not a problem for part 3. He has moderate water speed, so chasing down a boat isn't too big of a hassle. Overall, you want to play him kind of he's just really well-rounded. You can really play him any way you like to. If you want to rush him, he's got that good destruction. He's got that great grip strength, so it's harder to break free. And also, he has traps that he can place down. I think he has around 5 of them. And yeah, that's a decent amount. So you can do a lot. I'm kind of terrible with him, honestly. He's not my favorite. I prefer some of the others, like Part 2 or per se Part 5. I'd say those two would be my personal choices, but he is definitely up there, and he is great for starting out. If you need to pick a Jason to get good with, he is very, very good. Part 4 Jason. His strengths: he can run, he has a good weapon strength, deals more damage, and he has the destruction perk, which allows him to break down doors faster. Weaknesses: he is slow in the water, he has a slow shift, a slow recharging shift, and he does not have many traps. He actually has a weakness with traps. He is a strong but also flawed Jason. Your best bet playing as Part 4 is to just constantly put pressure onto the counselors. Don't let up. You always want to be following one of them and using that destruction skill to your advantage, just getting those doors broken down quickly. You know, obviously you still want to trap the phone. My strategy here that I did is I immediately, instead of going to the phone, I tried to find one counselor as fast as I could, and I just kind of morphed to the center of the map. I just heard the gas splashing sound, and I skipped ahead, but they had already gotten it into the car at this point, so I knew the only place that it could be at was the boat. So keeping aware like this, keeping knowledge just in the back of your head of what's been finished, what's not, it'll let you know, give you a little more information on where the counselor's whereabouts are. You have to be careful though. Due to not having a lot of traps, it's very, very easy to escape him. And when I mean escape, I mean get the car started, get the boat started, because you only have, I believe, 3 traps, and that's just not a lot. So yeah, if you're playing against some decent counselors who tank those traps, you just got to be careful. It's yeah, not my favorite Jason, but he is definitely strong. He has his strengths. He has his strengths and he has his weaknesses. Part 5, or Roy Burns. He's actually not Jason for once. As I like to call him, the man with no life in his eyes. Strengths are throwing knives, stalk regenerates faster, and he can run. Weaknesses are less defense, weaker grip strength, and he has less stun resistance, which kind of makes sense. His weaknesses are kind of more human traits because he is not superhuman like normal Jason. He is really good. He is pretty well-rounded when it comes to everything. He's got good stalk, which is really good for doing some sneak attacks, like I'll show here in a few minutes. And he has weaknesses that really aren't weaknesses once he gets into rage, like his stun, increased stun, and also his health being lower. Once you get to rage, again, kind of like Part 4, it doesn't really matter at all. One thing, though, is he doesn't really have too many really good bonuses like Part 2 does. That's kind of why I ranked him lower than Part 2, because Part 2 has the better morph and also the extra traps. Now, Part 5 here, he doesn't have the negatives like Part 2 does. He has a good water speed. He has a moderate shift, a moderate morph, and yeah, overall, I mean, he just does and performs pretty well. And being able to run is a plus. I'd say the Jasons that can run are definitely ranked up above the Jasons that can't. So what you want to do with Roy, similar to how I was saying with Part 3, really just go at it however you like. I've just kind of just played normally, where I would trap everything, trap the phone, and I would pick up the knives and also go just keep an eye on everybody, all the counselors. Another overall Jason tip is to make sure you can take out the other power boxes as soon as you can. Definitely try to get that done early game, because once you cut the power, it increases the fear of the counselors, and that has its own effects too. If the counselors have a higher fear, you can sense them more easily, so that little red glow when you sense, you can see them more easily and at longer ranges. And also their sprint regeneration, so their stamina, it takes longer for that to recharge if they're afraid. So that's always a plus, trying to get those power boxes cut as soon as you can. Really crucial detail here. See this person? They are heading straight towards Jason's shack. I got really lucky and I caught a glimpse of them. At this point I didn't even realize that Tommy Jarvis was called. So this is another thing, kind of what I was mentioning earlier, being aware, knowing where your shack is. There's really no reason somebody would be running out there except for trying to get to the shack. So what I'm going to do is get back there quick and set up a little trap for them. Another thing about stalk too, if you're using the stalk ability, it's you do not see the little VHS squiggles when you are moving around. You move very stealthily, and thanks to Roy's incredible stalk, I'm able to set up a very nice sneak kill coming up here. My rage is just about to come on, and I notice some sound pings. I see him. I wanted to back off a little bit, wait for my shift to recharge, and then I turn on that stalk, so now they can't hear me coming. And I shift and get the kill. One of my more favorite ones. I was pretty happy with this one here. Final thoughts on Roy: just be careful you don't get killed as him, because it can be easy to get killed by Tommy and Sweater Girl due to his low health. Overall, really strong, great stalk, and one of my favorites. Part 6 Jason. Strengths are throwing knives, sense, and shift. Weaknesses: defense, he cannot run, and his morph sucks doo-doo. He is the first in the Jasons that cannot run. He is overall a little more difficult to play, in my opinion. His shift is fantastic. Really, really good for doing shift grabs. It's one of my main techniques that I use, and also for catching the car. He doesn't have a trap weakness, so you can still trap pretty much everything on the map. Sense is good too early game. If you're trying to track down some people, you can find them pretty easily with him. The one thing though, his morph holds him back big time. It can be really frustrating if you are on very large maps like Pinehurst or just any large map, and two people are doing two things at the same time, like if one person's at the boat and one person's at the phone box. You gotta kind of choose which one you want to go for. That's a really good way to escape this Jason, is just take advantage of that morph. It's super slow, so that's a good strat to fight against him, and something you want to be aware of too. You want to be near the objectives, so you can either shift over there or you can use your morph sparingly to get there. The last thing I got to say about part 6, and it's an overall problem that the majority of the non-running Jasons, well, they all really have this problem. They're easily kiteable, and what I mean by that is because they can't run. You know, they can't really keep up too well. They can only do that little fast shuffle thing they do. So it's really important to be good with your shifts, because counselors like Vanessa will just run laps around you, with Bugsy as well. They'll just hop in and out of cabins and in and out of windows, getting their stamina recharged, and it is a pain. So just be careful about that. That's kind of why I rank them a little bit lower. Part 7. Strengths are sense, faster water speed, weapon strength. Weaknesses: he cannot run, he has no traps, and he has a weaker stun resistance. So he's pretty much the ugly duckling out of all the Jasons. In my opinion, he is the worst due to many reasons. First, you all know how I love my traps. As I've been saying, the traps are really important to me. I love using them, and he has a weakness with them, so it can be very hard to maintain objectives, like if you have 2 cars spawn. One thing though I'd say is a plus: the water speed. He's the one of the 2 Jasons that have a better water speed. So if someone's let's take this for example. If I'm playing a counselor and I notice there's a boat on the map, but I'm playing against a part 7, I'm just not even gonna go for the boat. I'm not even gonna waste my time, because as soon as I get in that boat, it's over. Like, he's just gonna flip it over. So if a counselor is, ignorant enough to try to go for the boat, it's just a free kill. With part 7, I have the most success. The way I play as him is I kind of just camp around one of the objectives, and what'll end up happening is they'll all try to attack me. They'll try to fix the car, and if I'm just sitting around there guarding it, they really can't do anything about it. That's happened to me many times, is they just don't give up trying to put the stuff in, and I just ended up getting them all right at that point. Normally I place down a trap in front of the phone, of course, one in front of the car battery, and sometimes I hold on to one, so just in case they do get, say, a car started, right, and I am in, like, let's say they crash the car, I can place that final trap in front of the car door again, so I'll be alerted if anybody tries to make another escape. So that's another little technique that I use. And again, just like part 6, how he can't really run very fast, it's very easy for counselors to juke you out, so that's why I like to put asphyxiate, this skill right here, on to do some quick kills. And then also with his weapon strength, he has a good slash, so slashing the counselors to slow them down a little bit. Here's a good example of what I was talking about earlier with the kiting that some of the counselors can do, like Tommy and Vanessa. They're the 2 fastest in the game, so essentially they can just outrun you and sometimes troll you and just kind of run around and be little hooligans, So that's another reason why part 7 is kind of stinky. Well, just in general, it probably smells really bad being under the water for all that time. But yeah, he's not very good. I don't recommend you play him. He gets a big thumbs down from me. Alright, moving on. Part 8 Jason. Strengths: water speed, destruction, and remember that's breaking down doors, stalk. Weaknesses: sense, cannot run, and his grip strength is weak. Part 8 Jason is, he's just kind of meh, really. He is definitely uglier than part 7, and he's a little better when it comes to stats. He doesn't have the trap weakness like part 7 does, and he has the water speed bonus as well, so same thing, boat, and don't even worry about watching the boat, because if they get in it, they're done. He has the destruction, so he can break down doors a little faster, and then also he has stalk, so he can do some sneak attacks like I was showing with part 5. He can make use of that. So early game, like I was saying, his sense is kind of doo-doo, so it's hard to see some people unless they're all attacking you like they are. You saw they actually took my mask off, so when that happens too, when the counselors actually manage to get my mask off after I'm finished dealing with them, I'm going to return to the shack, because let's say a counselor picks up the mask, right? Like a female counselor picks up the mask. If they get into your shed, you don't get that giant gong noise alerting you that, hey, someone's back, Jason, you know, like, help mommy. You don't hear that. So that's why it's important to put a trap here if you can spare it, because if they can sneak in there and, you know, surprise, surprise, you're dead. Also, I forgot to mention this. Destruction Jasons break down doors in 3 hits instead of 6. This next part I got really, really lucky on. I was just kind of checking the map, seeing where everything was. I looked at the phone, and then I looked back at it, and I realized in that point, in that period of time, the trap was actually triggered. I noticed that they had sneakily disarmed it with a pocket knife because it was glowing red, like I showed earlier. So I got really lucky that I was being aware, like I was saying, situational awareness, just looking at stuff, because that could have been a sneaky phone call. If counselors do spring some traps, if you have some left over, feel free to put another one down, just to keep your eyes on it again, in case they try to do something sneaky, because if they break the one, they probably have the fuse, or they have something that they need to put in there, so it'll make it even harder for them to win the match. This is a perfect example of how I believe Part 8 should be played, utilizing his stock. I engaged the stock before I did the shift, so they had no idea I was coming, and you can see they're scrambling, they run into their own traps, and it really get caught on by the element of surprise. I think stock is probably the most underrated thing in the game. If you can master stock, like waiting in rooms for people, or just waiting in the woods and walking up on somebody casually, you can get a lot of stealthy kills and just good interactions. Part 9 Jason's strengths are shift, stun resistance, and stalk. Weaknesses are he cannot run, he has less health, and he has less traps. I gotta start off by saying I really like Part 9. Out of all the walking Jasons, the Jasons that can't run, he's probably my favorite. With the extra shift and the better stock, I think it just puts him above all of the other non-walking zombie Jasons. The one thing though, his traps, you know, they're kind of sucky, but it don't really matter. With his shift, you can kind of get around everywhere, and he doesn't have the weak morph like Part 6 does, so he's not really worried about getting around to the objectives. You just have to watch people really keenly, you know, placing key traps like in front of the phone, the Tommy box, and then watching the car or the boat. You know, he doesn't have a reduced water speed, so he doesn't have that against him like Part 2 does. So he really can do a lot with his stock, like I was showing in Part 8, how with those sneak attacks, like you're waiting. Also, if they're trying to gang up on you, he has that better stun resistance as well, so it's harder for them to really stun the crap out of you if you are, say, camping the car. I'd say probably the biggest thing he struggles with, again, is just counselors that can outrun him. So being able to shift grab is really important, as well as, you know, just really being aware of the car and like in the boat. I see a lot of people complaining they think Jason is underpowered when people get into the car or they get the boat started. Well, yeah, that's the point. You know, if they get into the car, the counselors have to have some sort of way to win the game or escape. They can't just, you know, be super easily killed. The game wouldn't be fun that way. So there has to be some balance to it, and prevention is definitely the most important part when it comes to playing Jason to a successful game. If you're going for like a full 8 out of 8, trying to get everybody, if you let them get in the car, it's going to be hard to catch them. But if you've got a good shift like Part 9, it makes it a little easier. That's why I rank him higher. He's probably, one of my favorites. I really enjoy using him a lot. I play him a good amount. I've really taken a liking to him. I think he is very strong. You want to make water your friend. You want to take advantage of waterways that are around you. Like in this situation, my morph is done. I can't morph or shift at the moment, so I'm going to actually use the water just to kind of catch up with the counselor who's on the run. Some maps like Higgins Haven here, also Pinehurst, they have water that goes throughout the whole map. So that makes part 7 and part 8 a little more viable. It's not the biggest deal, but it's just another little tidbit of info that could help you out. Finally, we have Savini Jason. Strengths are better shift, increased weapon strength and destruction. Weaknesses, water speed, he cannot run, and his grip strength is weak. Now, I was hesitant to talk about Savini only because not everybody has Savini. He is a exclusive to the Kickstarter backers, or if you manage to do a profile share on like with a friend or purchasing it on eBay, that sort of thing. That's what I did. I did a profile share. I did an eBay profile share. I wanted to play him and see what he was like, and he's pretty fun to play. I'd say he is definitely the best of the zombie Jasons. I'm hesitant to put him as the best in the game. I really don't think he's the best. I think some other Jasons outperform him. Some of the running Jasons, like part 3 or part 5, they have a little more flexibility than him. Overall, though, really solid. Doesn't have many weaknesses except water speed. That's the one thing that if you're playing against him, definitely go for the boat. Try and get that boat if you can, and you'll do all right. That's going to do it for this video. I was considering doing a counselor version of this where I go through all the counselors. Let me know down below if that's something you'd want to see. Give me a comment. Also, give me your critique too if you think that I missed something in here or maybe something I could have explained a little better. Feel free to let me know down below. I want this place or these videos to kind of be a discussion, a general discussion about all the Jasons and people's experiences. I'm really excited to see what people have to say. So thanks again for watching, guys. Give me a sub if you liked it, and I hope you guys all have a good one. See you later.